Hello and welcome to this podcast from the BBC World Service. Please let us know what you think and tell other people about us on social media. Podcasts from the BBC World Service are supported by advertising.
It started with an email. I thought it was junk mail, but before I deleted it, I read it and it was very surprising.
Mirko Drochman is a German journalist and YouTuber. He makes videos about current affairs and history. He's used to ignoring offers from potential sponsors who want him to advertise their products. But the email he received in May this year was extraordinary.
There's nothing like hello or something like that. The mail starts with, "My name is Daniel. I'm engaged in an information campaign regarding the COVID-19 vaccine."
Daniel said he worked for an influencer marketing company called Faz. He offered to pay Mirko to promote what he said was leaked information about death rates associated with particular COVID vaccines.
The data leak showed a significant number of deaths after the Pfizer vaccination. We would like to invite you to share this information link. And then there's a Reddit link.
As well as spreading the anti-Pfizer message in his videos, the agency wanted Mirko to post material that supposedly backed up the claims.
They asked me to share a chart with some numbers about death cases with vaccination with Pfizer. It just took me half an hour to find out that everything in the chart was wrong or taken out of context.
The information provided was not true and purposefully misleading.
I wanted to know who's behind all that, who's paying for that. And he said, that's a secret, I can't tell you. That's a big secret, and please don't tell that you get money for all this.
I'm Charlie Haynes, and this is BBC Trending, where we take an investigative look at social media. In this episode, a mysterious influencer marketing company which offered to secretly pay YouTubers to spread disinformation. I've been looking into this with Flora Carmichael. Hi, Flora.
Hi, Charlie. The last series of Trending, the Anti-Vax Files, was all about anti-vaccine disinformation. This story is too, but it's about a failed vaccine disinformation campaign, one that went very wrong.
It's a global story involving influencers from France, Germany, Brazil and India. I first spotted it when a French science YouTuber, Leo Grasset, tweeted about how he'd also been approached by Faz.
When you are a YouTuber, influencer, internet celebrity, and so on, you always receive a lot of emails for partnerships, right? And usually it's just like a Chinese app or, phone case stuff. But this time, it was kind of weird from the start.
Faz wouldn't reveal who was funding the disinformation campaign. Leo was told the agency's client wanted to remain anonymous.
The fact that the brand was trying to stay incognito was, do you have something to hide? Do you have a shady business? So it's a red flag, a huge one. The agency said that they had a huge money bag. Basically, they had a big budget. That's also very weird because no one says that ever.
Both Mirko and Leo were appalled by the offer. They were being asked to promote lies to undermine public confidence in the Pfizer vaccine. They pretended to be interested, and Faz provided them with detailed instructions about what they should say in their videos.
So, we've seen this briefing document. It's 3 pages long, and it opens with, "Do not use words, advertising, sponsored video, etc. in your posts, stories and videos." So, influencers are being instructed to give the false impression they're not being paid for the videos.
Yeah, the brief says, act like you have passion and interest in this topic. Present the material as your own independent view.
It provides a list of links that the influencers should share with their videos. Dubious articles which falsely claim the death rate among those who've had the Pfizer vaccine is almost 3 times higher than among those who've had the AstraZeneca jab, and that it's dangerous to people's health. All untrue.
When the influencers went public about this, all the misleading articles disappeared from the web.
Now remember, Faz was claiming this data had come from a leak. And to try and back that up, they asked influencers to share a genuine story from a French newspaper. It was about a data leak from the European Medicines Agency that actually did happen. But there's no mention of death rate figures in the article, and there's no evidence the statistics came from the EMA.
Instead, they appear to have been cobbled together from different sources and don't compare like with like. And this is where the message that Faz and their mysterious client wanted to push got even more dishonest.
The data was taken out of context. It presented the numbers of people who had died in several countries some time after receiving different COVID vaccines. But the conclusions they drew from this were completely false. Just because someone died after having a vaccine doesn't mean they died because they had the vaccine. They might have been run down by a car. Far higher numbers of people had received the Pfizer vaccine at that point, so of course the stats looked bad for them. Leo realised this. He is a scientist after all.
If you don't have any scientific training, you could just say, oh, there is these numbers, they are really different, so there must be a link. But you can make any spurious correlation as you want, really.
Both he and Mirko wanted nothing to do with something that was clearly an attempt to falsely discredit the Pfizer vaccine in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, this is super dodgy.
And if they'd agreed to do it, they wouldn't have just been acting unethically. They'd have been breaking the law. In France and Germany, where Leo and Mirko are from, not disclosing sponsored content is illegal.
Mirko wanted to raise the alarm about what Faz was up to, so he teamed up with a German journalist.
Hello, I'm Daniel Laufer. I'm an editor with Netzpolitik.org, and I investigated this disinformation campaign together with ARD Kontraste.
Daniel set out to find out if any influencers had taken up Faz's offer.
We had the tutorial that these influencers had been sent to, and we assumed that Mirko Trotschmann wasn't the only influencer who had been sent this tutorial. So we then took the links they were supposed to place in their content and just Googled them. And eventually we found 2 people who had been spreading this content as well.
We've had a look at the videos Daniel found, and we don't know for certain that the influencers were paid by Faz, but the videos are very striking.
In India, there's a young YouTuber called Ashkar Teki. He makes jokey videos about cars and girls in the South Indian language of Malayalam. But in the one Daniel identified, he does a handbrake turn from his usual content and suddenly switches to English to warn viewers against the Pfizer vaccine.
The mortality rate among the vaccinated by Pfizer is almost highest than among the vaccinated by AstraZeneca, which clearly understand AstraZeneca is more effective than Pfizer and better. This is not told by me, and these things came out from article. I have given the links of articles in description. You can check out.
Then, just as abruptly, he goes back to reviewing jokey videos about dating.
Go and check out, guys, and be safe and wear mask. Yes. Dundra.
It really is the most bizarre watch. And what's even stranger is the Pfizer vaccine isn't even available in India.
Meanwhile, half a world away in Brazil, Everson Zoyo, who normally makes prank videos, had an out-of-character message to share with his 3 million Instagram followers.
Onde foi publicado informe onde mostra a taxa de mortalidade.
They published a report which shows the death rate of people who are vaccinated with a Pfizer jab, which is 3 times higher than the AstraZeneca. That's why I was worried and I decided to share this with you, because we really need to stay informed about what's happening. And what I still don't understand, guys, is why this vaccine is being bought in lots of countries.
Both influencers were pushing the same message as the Faz campaign. Daniel, the German journalist, also discovered other connections between them and Faz.
Both Everson Zoyo and Ashkar Teki had previously promoted financial products using a campaign link which included the name Faz.
After Daniel contacted them, Everson Zoyo and Ashkar Teki removed their videos, but didn't respond to his questions. We tried to get in touch with both of them, but they didn't reply.
So what is Faz, and who was their mystery client? Let's take a look at the Faz website. Start monetizing your individuality, it says at the top in big letters.
They've got graphics showing superheroes with social media logos emblazoned on their chests.
We tried emailing the people who got in touch with Mirko and Leo. The emails bounced back, but not from Faz, rather from the domain of a company called AdNow.
Faz is a part of AdNow, which is a digital marketing company registered in both Russia and the UK. According to its Facebook and Twitter accounts, AdNow is based in Britain. There was even a London telephone number. So, was the disinformation campaign run from London?
We called the number. We'd just about given up hope of anybody answering when somebody did.
Hello, this is AdNow office.
Hello, my name's Charlie. I'm calling from the BBC. Am I right in thinking this is... I'd like to say this phone call was the call that bust the story wide open. But when I asked to speak to the company directors, this is what happened.
So, no luck there. But we weren't ready to give up. On an archived version of the Faz website, we found they had shared an address with AdNow, 5 minutes walk from our office in London. We went to have a look.
Number 5 Percy Street is a pretty typical looking London townhouse. It's long and narrow with a painted white bottom and a black front door. Next to the front door is a series of signs listing companies based at the address, but there is no mention of a company called Faz at this address. I'm about to put a letter to Faz through the letterbox with some questions we've got for the company. Hopefully they'll pick it up and they'll get in contact with us.
We eventually did manage to contact a director of the British arm of AdNow on Facebook. He's called Ewan Tolliday and lives in the north of England. He wouldn't give us an interview, but he said he had very little to do with Faz, which he said was a joint venture between his fellow director, a Russian man called Stanislav Fesenko, and another person whose identity he didn't know. He was very keen to stress that he hadn't been a part of the disinformation campaign. He said he hadn't even known Faz had taken on the contract before the story broke, and he couldn't enlighten us on who the mystery client was.
Mr. Tolliday said that because of the scandal, both Faz and the British side of AdNow are being closed down.
We've tried to get Mr. Fesenko to talk to us, but had no success. We've also gone to great lengths to contact AdNow's headquarters in Russia. We emailed the company, and our Russian-speaking colleagues in Moscow have also tried to get a comment. We've even couriered a letter to AdNow's office in Moscow, but we've heard nothing back from the company's director, Natalia Obolenskaya, or anybody else.
We weren't the only ones who were stonewalled. Alexei Kovalev is the investigations editor of independent Russian news site Meduza. He's also made numerous attempts to contact the company and its staff.
Yeah, there was just one person that responded to all of our dozens of inquiries.
That person had been hired in Russia by AdNow, who assigned them to work for Faz. They didn't work on the vaccine disinformation campaign, but they said it wasn't the first time Faz had tried to get influencers outside of Russia to advertise things without declaring they'd been sponsored to do it.
The person I talked to was tasked with contacting bloggers in a language that they worked with very similar offers to promote online games or food additives or something that had to do with cryptocurrencies. And, well, basically asking them to promote them without ever mentioning that it was a sponsored content. So they found it, the person I talked to, highly unethical.
Social media platforms have rules that forbid influencers from promoting a product without clearly saying they've been sponsored. And it's also illegal in some countries. We've approached AdNow and Faz, but they didn't comment. The employee Alexei spoke to was paid a low wage for a city like Moscow, where they were based. They never got to meet any of their colleagues as they were working remotely because of the pandemic. By any measure, this disinformation campaign was an absolute failure. We know of another 4 influencers who've gone public about being approached. So, whatever the intention, this campaign was bungled.
But who was the mystery client who wanted to discredit the Pfizer vaccine? We still don't know for certain. There's been a lot of speculation about the Russian connections to this scandal and the interests of the Russian state in promoting its own vaccine, Sputnik V.
Both the French and German authorities have launched investigations into the approaches to influencers. Omid Nuripur, the foreign policy spokesperson for the German Green Party, has suggested looking to Moscow for the motivation behind the Faz campaign. He said bad-mouthing vaccines in the West undermines trust in our democracies and is supposed to increase trust in Russia's vaccines, and there's only one side that benefits, and that is the Kremlin.
We put that to the Russian embassy in London. In a statement, they said, "We treat COVID-19 as a global threat and thus are not interested in undermining global efforts in the fight against it." They added that vaccinating people with the Pfizer vaccine was one of the ways to cope with the virus. But journalist Alexei Kovalev believes Russia has spread false claims about Western vaccines, and he's annoyed because he feels it's undermining the success of his country's own vaccine.
Sputnik is a great vaccine. It's a pinnacle of scientific achievement, and it's Russia really, I'm really proud of it. But all of the secrecy and the lies and the propaganda that surrounds it really poisoned the well.
Whoever was behind the secret scheme to put people off the Pfizer vaccine, their efforts didn't go as planned. But YouTuber Leo Grasset believes it's a worrying sign of things to come.
This is just the beginning. The main thing I take from that is that we are becoming the center of disinformation campaign as internet creators. If you want to influence people, if you want to manipulate the public opinion, especially for the young people, you don't go to TV. It's useless. Just spend the same money on TikTok creators, YouTube creators, and it will be way, way more efficient. The whole ecosystem is perfectly built for a maximal efficiency of disinformation right now.
That's it for this episode of BBC Trending. Thanks to Flora Carmichael and our editor Ed Main. If you want to message Trending with your thoughts on this or any of our other podcasts, you can email me using charlie.haynes@bbc.co.uk. That's charlie.haynes@bbc.co.uk. Thanks for listening. And before we go, here's a podcast that's going for gold.
There's so many people inside of the stands, and you feel the heat from all of the bright lights, and you hear the crowd yelling.
Every contest makes me super nervous, not because it's the Olympics, just everything.
Of course you think about winning that gold medal, but my chances were not very big.
I didn't ever think, I want to be an Olympian, I want to be a gold medalist.
You searching your whole life, and all of a sudden that light bulb comes on.
On the Podium is a podcast bringing you stories from remarkable Olympic and Paralympic athletes.
You remember all what you did as a sacrifice, how it was hard to be like the first African and Arab woman in fencing.
On the Podium from the BBC World Service.
Just being on the podium and hearing your national anthem played, it's an amazing moment.
Search for On the Podium wherever you get your podcasts.